we've been talking about identity, and especially within the ABC thinking. And if I have B thinking as my number one or my main focus, that means I'm tied into concrete particulars or knowledge. So if people ask me, well, what do you do? What are you? And I'll say, well, I'm a teacher. I'm a carpenter. I'm this or that. I have a PhD in scientific knowledge. So you're telling me that gives me an indirect identity? What do you mean by indirect?
Well, one of the things that we pointed out here, in this scenario, when B is operating the thought process habits, we are basically, our habits are the fact that knowledge drives everything we're doing. The analytical side of it isn't processing the material or the information well enough. So basically, you wind up being told. You're told, and so how we get there in this thing is if you're down here in me, and you're trying to improve yourself through knowledge, it don't go there, because remember, people are telling you what to do. It doesn't matter. You can be a PhD. You can have a doctorate in medicine and not really understand what you're doing unless your thought processes have transformed. And in fact, you've got to have comprehension on what you're doing. You can't be thinking in the intangible. You got to be in the tangible.
Okay, so if I'm thinking about all the things that I know, another thing you have on your list is about it leads me to greed. How does that lead me to being greedy?
Well, you're motivated to have the most information that you can in order to prove yourself. And this is what happens in this scenario.
I find myself quite often having to prove myself. I'm a woman. I'm not stupid. So I do a lot of things to show that I'm not stupid. I hate it when anybody calls me stupid. Okay? So how does that lead me in my emotional state to how can I get out of that cycle of reacting negatively when somebody treats me like I'm stupid? I want to, how do I get out of that, and how do I analyze that in God's eyes to make a better balance in my life, to not allow my knowledge and working for my knowledge so that I can prove I'm not stupid, prove myself, in other words.
Well, the thing is that anybody can fall into the ABC through suppression, and what you're talking about is suppression. It's suppression of gender suppression, and normally the person that's being suppressed is, in that scenario, a lot of times will fall back into this indirect identity, because they're when they have taken their analytical side and they're suppressed. The analytical things, A, normally is the first thing that drops off, and they come and drop back to an indirect identity, which is the BCA. Now, what can you do to change this? It's very simple. You yourself need to go over here and look at the things that has dropped down here in that achieves this. You've been told. Your transformation is, because transformation is something that we all do all the time. And if somebody is suppressed, they quit transforming. They quit comprehending. Their thought processes quit working in an intangible sense, because suppressions become tolerant and indoctrinated in what they've been told and pushed this type of thing on.
So isn't that a normal or natural thing? After all, it's a lot easier to have people tell me what to do, and I can go do it and be correct, rather than have to think for myself what I want to do.
It's totally unnatural, because it's based on greed. The individuals that are doing the suppression are greed-based. That greed base actually goes back to the ones that are being suppressed, because that's what they're taught. The transformation side of that, where to become an ABC thinker, you have to be able to discern things. You be able to think in concepts. You got to be intangible and tangible. You got to be interaction. Interaction isn't just interaction with not only with self but with everybody else, with the situation. Any problems that you have to interact with them, not react to them, but interact with them. You have to accept
That's
them.
rather interesting. React. Don't we normally just react to a bad thing happens to us, and we react with, oh no, poor me, what's going to happen? How do we? For me, I see that as a normal reaction to a bad thing. Oh no, what am I going to do? So that would put us on the C level first, right? Emotional based.
Right.
So our goal in our life then is to not let C what permeate our life, not let C control us,
Right.
but to not even let our knowledge control us.
This is where analytical or abstract thinking comes in. You got to see all situations. If you lose somebody that's close to you, or something happens to you, you need to look outside of the event to be able to grow, and it's being interactive with that event. You got to comprehend what's going on. You got to transform